15 Best House of Cards Alternatives. Given the circumstances, we understand if you'd prefer to not watch the Netflix hit House of Cards, but that does leave the question of what to watch instead. As far as genre shows go, there haven't been as many political legal thrillers as, for example, cop procedurals or reality shows. Still, we live in a time when you can find companion series to even the most specific TV properties out there. When you're in the mood for intrigue, shady deals and high-stakes drama, consider some of these shows. Spoiler: C-SPAN is not represented on this list.Credit. David Giesbrecht's Netflix. This Spanish-language series just came out on Netflix this year, so don't worry if you haven't heard of it yet. For American viewers, it's always nice to see that anxieties about political dysfunction aren't unique to the U.S. Ungovernable gives us Emilia Urquiza, Kate del Castillo, the fictional First Lady of Mexico, who is struggling with both her marriage and her position in the country. There's even an episode called The Alternative Truth, which will sound scarily familiar to anyone following current events. Credit: Leon Galen Marquez. Netflix. If you're not watching this show, you've almost certainly heard of it. The Jennings are a seemingly normal couple who hide their secret life as deep-cover spies for the KGB during the Cold War. Their situation gets even more complicated as one of their neighbors works for the FBI. It might not be as high on the must-see radar as Game of Thrones, but this show has its fair share of followers. Since the final regular season is coming up, now's a great chance to binge the first 5 seasons. Credit: Eric Leibowitz. FX. In a lot of crime stories, ratting out your fellow crooks to the feds either gets you dead or out of the lifestyle. Either way, it's the end of the story. Blacklist uses it as the beginning when James Spader's infamous bad guy brokers a deal with the FBI to help them net even worse guys, Hannibal Lecter style. He also develops a relationship with a female FBI agent, also like Lecter, although he probably doesn't eat people. It's not as much of a straight political thriller as most of the other entries on this list, but you've got to admit that's a pretty killer premise. T. Leone plays an unexpectedly appointed Secretary of State. If you're looking for a reference in real life, think Madeleine Albright, who actually shows up in one of the episodes. Spoiler alert. Unlike most of the shows mentioned on this list, which have already wrapped up, this one is currently in the middle of its 4th season. If you're a champion binger, there's a chance you can get up to speed before the finale. Credit: Jonathan Wenck. CBS. Another foreign entry on this list, Borgen follows Liberal Danish Prime Minister Birgit Nyberg, Sigs Babette Knudsen, whom you might recognize from Westworld. She's the first woman to hold the role and has to manage foreign and domestic issues, along with her private life. The show has become something of a cult hit outside of its native country, and although it hasn't yet made it to Netflix or Hulu, you can find episodes on iTunes, Google Play and YouTube. When this show premiered, it was thrilling to see Julia Louis-Dreyfus finally break the Seinfeld curse for good. Now, it's hard to imagine a world without the hapless, frustrated Selina Meyer, not to be confused with Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, a vice president from an unnamed political party, dealing with gaffes, her staff's infighting and professional setbacks galore. It's got a great roster of supporting characters and is probably a great show to discuss with anyone you know who actually works in DC, as the real thing gets more and more absurd. Credit: Colleen Hayes. HBO. Shondaland mainstay Scandal has seen some ups and downs in popularity, but it's still an important show that brought a fresh idea to procedural television. Olivia Pope. Kerry Washington isn't a cop or a lawyer. She's a crisis manager who makes problems go away for those who can afford it. And she's based on a real person, Judy Smith, to boot. All the fast-paced quips, sexual tension and melodrama you could want comes with an ongoing character study. As the show progresses, we learn more and more about Pope's past and her history.